Alrighty, bonjour and welcome to the ranking of the 2024 new release World Tour bicycles. We have a tier list in front of us and we are going to place these puppies on based on where I personally believe that they should fit. Now, again, a reminder, this is just my initial thoughts, and if you disagree, please put a comment about why in the comment section. If you agree, then please put a comment saying I'm a genius, and if you don't know what to say, chuck an eggplant in, because we all feel that way about some of these bikes. So let's rip in. Number one, numero uno, is the S-Works SL8. This will be brand new in the peloton in 2024. It is being ridden by numerous teams, and honestly, it looks very similar to the S-Works SL7. It is undeniable that this is a good bike, but it is also undeniable that we were all pretty underwhelmed with the release of this bike, and so as a result, I am going to place the S-Works SL8 in the B tier. I would not buy this bike. It is undoubtedly a quick bike, but it is not number one on my list. Next up is the Van Raisel, and this is the brand new bike by the AG Tour Citroën Decathlon combination. This is pretty new to the World Tour, and it's not a bad bike. This is an A tier for me. I am super excited to see how this bike goes. I am interested to see how people feel about it. I am interested to see this get in the hands of some reviewers and get some information about what it actually rides like. Apparently, there's been a lot of work on this, and I am, well, let's just say, colour me intrigued. It's not, going to blow anyone away. It does look like other bikes in the peloton, but I think it is cool. It is something different, and I am excited to see how we go. If you're waiting for a longer video, that's it. That's so far as I can tell, the only two new World Tour bikes. So that's the end of the video, right? Well, no, because I decided to do something a bit different. I didn't want to leave you with just that video. So we are going to be ranking all of the World Tour time trial bikes. Now, this was actually a lot harder to get some information on. So this is the men's, and we're going to do a separate women's version. This was super difficult to get the info on because it seems like cycling companies do not push their World Tour time trial bikes, and I can't blame them. It's actually hard to find photos of these that aren't in the triathlon configuration, and you will see that some of these have additions on them that are not UCI legal. That's because I legitimately cannot find a version of this online that doesn't have those additions, because as far as I can tell, these are marketed towards triathletes. And who can blame them, because what road cyclist is going out and buying a TT bike? Pretty much none. So we're starting off with the Bianchi Aquilla. This is ridden by the Arkea Samsic team, and it is, look, it's pretty underwhelming when it comes to these TT bikes. Some of these look like absolute weapons. This does look super aero. It's really low profile, but when you have a look at some of the directions that other bikes are going, it's hard to feel like this is anything but antiquated. Other bike brands seem to be going for a higher position that extends the rider, whereas this seems to be super dropped and looks like some of those Greg LeMond 1980s bikes. I don't love the way that this looks. This is a C tier for me. Now, the next up is your Cannondale, and this is the Cannondale Super Slice ridden by EF Easy Post. Again, it's hard to get a modern version of this, and I'm certain that this is not the version that they are riding, well, this paint scheme anyway. However, the paint scheme is sick. The bike is also super, super cool. Looks really aero. I like the thicker tubes on this. It just looks like a quick bike. Now, I know nothing about TT, so I don't know anything about whether this is a good bike or not, but it just looks like you would be able to get into a good position on this. This bike, the Cannondale Super Slice, is an A tier for me. Next up is the Canyon Speed Max CFR. This is written by Alpecin de Koenig and Movistar. And what I've got here, I believe, is the Movistar version. And again, this looks a bit like the Bianchi in regards to the position. However, I like the design of this bike better. I think it looks cooler. And so as a result, we're chucking this in the B tier. Our next bike is the Sevello, and this is specifically the Sevello P5, and I think this looks a lot like the Sevello S5, just turned into a time trial bike with some of those deeper tube designs, but basically same wheel hug on the seat tube, and I think this just looks like an absolute weapon. This is our first S tier. It's not our number one S tier. There will be other ones coming, but I am absolutely infatuated with this bike. Whoever is riding that must be able to turn a massive gear as well, because that is a freaking dinner plate on that front chain ring. So yeah, first S tier. The next one is the Cube, and this is the Cube Arium TT, ridden by Intermarché Circus Wanty. This bike is pretty sick, and Cube is fast becoming one of my favourite bike brands. This design looks very similar to the Canyon. If you put them next to each other, they do look quite similar. However, this seems to have a higher position on the bars, and so as a result, this is going into an A tier, which means on my rankings of 2023 road bikes and the 2023-2024 World Tour TT bikes, the Cube is in the A tier for both. Cube is up and coming, ladies and gents. Next up, I really gave Giant heaps in the previous video because I don't really like Giants when it comes to road bikes. However, I have a different view of TT bikes. They're high tech. They don't have the same classic sort of vibe as road bikes. And as a result, I'm willing to give Giant a look in. And I do really like the Giant Trinity Advanced Pro TT until you realize that this is still running disc brakes. And then that turned me off for a second. And then I thought, why does a TT bike actually need disc brakes? And sorry, I think I said it's running disc. It's running rim. You can see the rim brakes on the back. I think this might actually give you an aerodynamic advantage. The rim brakes sit behind the forks and at the bottom of the chainstay. It is a bit of a rip-off of a previous Giant that they were running. I can't remember the bike exactly before the disc brake versions came out, where a lot of brands were trying to hide the rim brakes. And so as a result, I think this might be a pretty quick bike. So this is ridden by the Jayco Alula team, and a little bit of patriotism might be coming in as well, but this looks sick. I would put this in the S tier. However, I cannot find a Jayco Alula version of it, so I don't know what it's going to look like in their hands. And also, it's really hard to find any information about this bike. So as a result, it is an A tier. Next up is the look, and again, I really gave the look heaps when it came to the design of their road bike. It was boring and it was bland. However, that is not the same case for the look 796 Monoblade RS ridden by Cofidis. This looks fast. I really love the head stem design. I love the really deep seat post. This is an A tier, and I'm going to place this ahead of the Giant. This looks like a weapon of a bike. The Marita Time Warp, ridden by Bahrain Victorious, also looks like an absolute beast of a bike. I know this is the paint scheme that they're running in 2023, and it is slick. I don't like, again, that they seem to be pushing the rider deeper on the on the bars, and again, it seems to be flying in the face of conventional wisdom when it comes to being more aero, and we'll see that in a couple of later bikes, particularly Filippo Ganna's Pinarello that is coming up. But overall, it looks pretty sick. So this is a high B, taking out top spot from the Canyon. So next up is our Pinarello, and this is the Pinarello Bolide, ridden by Ineos Grenadiers. This bike looks sick. This bike goes straight to the top of the A tier. I am tempted to put it into the S tier. You know what? I'm gonna. This bike is sick. Look at that paint job. Look at everything on this bike is awesome. Again, when we're talking about handle, so the bars, those front bars are really high, especially at the front, to allow the rider to really tuck the head in. And I think that's that looks so cool. So that is an S tier. Next up is the Scott, and the Scott, you know how I feel about Scott. No one wants to ride a Scott. This bike looks pretty bland. I want to put it in the D tier because it's a Scott, but it's a B tier, and honestly, it's going to knock out the Canyon. And that hurts a little bit, but anyway, there you go. So our next up is the Works Shiv. It's pretty cliche, but it is a bloody brilliant bike. So the Works Shiv, this is ridden by Bora Hansgrove and Sedal Quickstep, and this bike is amazing. I still don't love the way that it looks, but it's undeniable. This super fast bike. This is the top of the A tier so far. Okay, and next up is a bike that I would love this bike. This is the Trek, specifically the Trek Speed Concept SLR9, ridden by, funny enough, Little Trek. And this joins the Sevello and the Pinarello in the S tier. This bike looks fast. It just looks fast. And again, when we're talking about dinner plates, that is a dinner plate on that bike. So, next up is the Willia Turbine SLR. And the Willia Turbine SLR just looks like a road bike with some tri-wheels attached to it. This is, unfortunately, a D tier. Top tube that doesn't blend into the wheels. Surely that creates some turbulence at the back. It just doesn't look like heaps of R&D's gone into this, which is sad because I love Willia, but I would be surprised if we see Astana Kazakhstan or Groupama FDJ pulling off any wins on this bike. The next one is going to be super controversial, but this is the AG's Tour Le Mondial Decathlon, and this is the Van Raisel. This is going straight to the S tier. This bike looks sick. It is the Van Raisel XCR TT, and it is a demon. In fact, I'm going to place this ahead of the Trek. I think there must have been a significant amount of R&D going into this bike because it just looks quick. That steerer tube, the depth in that, as well as the seat post, it just looks like a really refined machine. I'm interested to see how this goes in the hands of the AG Tour team. I think there surely is going to be some good positioning on this bike. I'm excited to see how it goes. And the last one If you know your World Tour teams, there is one team that we haven't touched on yet, and it is UAE Team Emirates riding the Cannondale TT1. There is nothing to say about this other than this looks like a rocket ship, and this jumps straight to the top of the S tier. If you do not put this at the top of your rankings, you are a nutter. Everything on this bike looks like it is refined. That top tube, how thin can you get that top tube? I swear if I sat on that, it would crack. It just looks like a speed machine, and I am in love with this bike. The depth on those front forks, just the rear forks, the chain stays, the seat stays, everything about it is just sexy. And I absolutely love it. And so the Cannondale TT1 is our top spot for the men's World Tour TT bikes. Now, again, I have no idea how any of these ride. I know nothing about TT bikes, and this is just based on whether I think they look cool or not. But really, that's what bikes are all about at the end of the day. And so this is my ranking. Again, if you disagree, let me know. If you agree, let me know. And if you're interested in the World Tour women's TT bikes, that video will be coming out tomorrow. So subscribe, stay tuned, and yeah, I hope you liked it.